In this episode of Occult Unmasked, I talk about Grimoires, how I collect them, I collect occult books. There's a repeating theme in Grimoires, and it's not just that they all contain sigils specifically designed to summon spirits. I detail a number of Grimoires that falsely attribute a famous character that has nothing to do with the book. I also give a warning. I do not practice any of the rituals in these books for a good reason. Reading them for the information is another story. John Razimus here. Thanks for watching. In this episode, I'm just going to briefly talk about a few attributes of grimoires. If you don't know what a grimoire is, then you're not too into the occult, which is fine. The occult is not for everybody. Some consider it extremely scary. Some consider it simply information. I personally consider it information. The occult, occultic books, magic, sorcery, black magic, white magic, whatever you want to call it, is contained in books, and these books, from my perspective, are information. They can be strictly neutral information with knowledge, either true or false, artistic representations of things. They can lead to wisdom and greater knowledge, but I consider them extremely neutral. It's just information. It's what you choose to do with that information, which can lead to good or evil. And of course, there would be debates on whether you even can do evil things with such knowledge. Like, some people claim they can kill people with their mind, or with their occultic powers. I personally don't believe in that in any way, shape, or form. So, not believing in it, I would say I am less susceptible to anything like that happening to me. There could be a placebo effect concerning being afraid all the time. I personally have zero fear concerning the occult, concerning demonic entities, and I'll tell you why. Because I met them, invisible entities of a higher dimension, whether you believe this or not, in 2010 and 11, and at the time, sure, the first initial meeting, the first initial exposure to these invisible entities was a bit unsettling, was frightening, was scary. Some guy in some ghost video left a comment after me saying, "If you saw what I saw, your hair would turn white." And I told the guy, I don't think so. You use that cliche term on the wrong guy, because if you saw what I saw, you might immediately die of a heart attack. If you saw what I saw, you might go insane for the rest of your life and end up in an asylum. Luckily, I have the ability to gauge and judge rationally, reasonably, and dissect what's really going on. The entity that showed up in 2010 was horrifying. I would say was a high-ranking demon. And the reason I'm not afraid of that demon or any others, even if he was low-ranking and he sent 1,000 after me, now please don't send 1,000 demons after me, but if 1,000 demons did go after me, there's a yin and yang aspect of the universe. You can't be burdened with more than you can withstand. If 1,000 demons go after you, there's going to be 1,000 angels to protect you to counterbalance it. The yin and yang principle. If 1,000 people smear your name on the internet with false information, there's a yin and yang aspect which is going to counterbalance that. And it doesn't happen immediately. Instant karma doesn't always happen. I have had a few rare experiences of instant karma where you step on a bug and then immediately you're stung by a bee or you fall into a thorn. Tiny stuff like that, and it's hardly even comparable. But if you keep your eyes open, you can see the principle of karma does exist. It's so invisible, so hard to see and prove, that you'll never be able to prove it. But I personally believe in a principle much like karma. I personally believe in a principle very much like yin and yang, opposition, opposing forces. And these opposites, these opposing forces, these principles, these laws in the universe protect us. It's the reason we're not bogged down by a million horrible things. But what about the people that are bogged down by millions of horrible things and die in Auschwitz in a gas chamber and are killed? All right? Those people go on to greater, higher realms. They receive greater, higher peace, in my opinion. How so? How do I know? Because of the laws of the universe. You can't experience great joy without experiencing great pain. And people that haven't really experienced much pain in their life, that had cushy lives their whole life, and were rich and were catered to their whole life, and experienced virtually no pain and no suffering, those people won't experience joy to the extent of people that suffered if they ascend to higher realms, because they're going to be like, oh, this is just like my old place. Servants and free food and cushy life. Who knows what their mindset is going to be if they can even attain those higher realms. Reminds me of Siddhartha, the Buddha, who experienced luxury. When he left the palace, he experienced pain for the first time, caused him to meditate, and the story goes, became the Buddha. But this video is actually about grimoires. A grimoire is an occult book with one purpose and one purpose alone. A grimoire doesn't have any other purpose than this one singular purpose, to summon spirits, period. This is Occult Unmasked, and I'm going to cut to the chase and cut through the bullcrap real quick. And you could call it my opinion all day, every day, but I consider it more than an opinion, because I've had experience with these things, which has led me time and time again to deduce and come to the conclusion based on first-hand experience with these entities. They're independent from humans. They're evil, tricksters, the ones that will mess with your life in a negative way. There's always going to be those people that spin it and say, oh, they only appear as monsters to scare you so you can learn a lesson. Oh, they only screw with your life so they can teach you a lesson. And most definitely, their role in the universe may most definitely involve you learning a lesson. I will not disagree with that. But from the entity's perspective, it thinks it's destroying you and trying to destroy you and trying to destroy your life. So that's what makes these entities evil. Their actions don't always result in evil results. Sometimes their horrible, horrid actions of pure evil result in a wonderful, beautiful, positive result. And that result isn't from them. That's not what they sought out to achieve. They sought out to destroy you. I'm talking about demons. Now, a lot of people say demons don't exist. To those people, I say, I know for 100% fact, a personal fact I can't prove to anyone, that invisible entities, invisible to us, not invisible to them, exist on a realm, a dimension, stacked on top of our dimension. We are in the 3rd/4th dimension. Demons, I would assess and guess, are in the 5th dimension. I believe there are higher dimensions and higher spirit entities, and I believe the higher you go, the more enlightened, as the Buddha would have talked about to his disciples, the higher you go, the more you go up into the nirvana, the place of paradise and peace, where you ascend to enlightenment. But the bottom areas are filled with the foulest, most horrible entities known in the universe. They serve a purpose. Their intelligence level isn't necessarily low. Why? Because they've been forced to watch the movie of the universe from this low dimension, and they have a perfect memory of it. If you were forced to watch the history of the universe for 5 million years straight, and you had 5 million years of knowledge in your head, in your spiritual head, you'd be a pretty intelligent entity. You would be so intelligent, you would see humans less than ants. You would see humans probably more like we see bacteria. You would see them as such a low subspecies to you, an inferior species. It's probably the reason they don't say hello and they don't say goodbye. They show up, mess up your life, and leave. They don't have any manners, and people describe aliens, extraterrestrials, alien abductions in the exact same manner. I have many references. I have a couple books. I have a magazine which reference aliens and demons acting identical. They appear when you're sleeping in your bed. They appear in dreams. They pull you through the ceiling. They're actually pulling your spirit out of your body into the astral realm. They take you to a spaceship, proving it's not a demon, it's an extraterrestrial. Well, I'm going to talk about the astral realm in the future. There are definitely some extremely exotic properties to the astral realm. I don't know if it's a particular wavelength of the astral realm, but there's a certain area of the astral realm which has unique properties in which the entities that reign in that place have the ability to, with their mind, whip up the most elaborate Hollywood set you've ever seen, including the inside of a flying saucer, including make themselves look like extraterrestrials. They can make themselves look like anything. But Grimoires. This video is about Grimoires. Let's stick to the subject of Grimoires. Here's a book I picked up recently. And if you saw my last video, you will know why I picked this up. If you didn't see my last video, you will not know why I picked it up. So check out my last video because very few people watched my last video. I personally think that there is something fishy going on with YouTube and notifications. Click the bell on this video. It will give you updates and notifications when I have a new video. So do that and you'll be up to date on my new videos. I bought this book, The 6th and 7th Books of Moses, Magic Spirits Art, by, of course, L.W. DeLawrence. DeLawrence is an interesting guy. He definitely took stuff that was public domain and he re-released it. Very common legal practice. At the same time, people say he plagiarized from some occultists during the time, and it's possible he did. I hold no grudges against him because everyone involved is dead at this point, and information is information. And you can find a lot of DeLawrence's books on PDF for free by Googling them. In no way do you need the physical format. I'm just a fan of the physical format. I believe this is a 1960s version, total reprint of the 6th and 7th books of Moses. What I wanted to talk about in this video was the fact that this book has nothing to do with Moses. Moses didn't write this book. This book is attributed falsely to Moses. Moses died thousands of years before this book was ever written. So why is Moses' name shoved on there as if it's a fact? The 6th and 7th books of Moses couldn't be more misleading, because what this is a grimoire. This is a book designed specifically with sigils to summon demons. You will see here's a couple sigils to summon demonic entities. And in no way, shape, or form is there any historical proof that Moses ever summoned anything like this. Here's the demon Aerialis. Here's the demon Marbuelis. And they're going to use different names. It looks like they're calling it something else other than a demon, but it's a demon. Definitely some interesting sigil artwork you will see. Here's a pentagram. There's some sigil artwork with Hebrew. This book was not written by Moses. It's actually an extremely common practice attributing the name of a famous person or entity to a grimoire, a black magic book designed to summon demons. In no way, shape, or form am I ever going to summon any demons. I'm an anti-occultist, strictly in that sense. But I read a lot of books. This is by DeLawrence, most definitely by someone else, and he probably slapped his name on it. Legally, because the copyright expired. It's a common legal practice. Here's someone that ripped off DeLawrence. So DeLawrence isn't the only one that ripped off occultists. Some guy ripped off DeLawrence. Some guy named Atkinson made this book called Psycho Magic after DeLawrence died. So there's no way DeLawrence could have collabed in 1967 because DeLawrence died long before that. And this, I haven't gone through Psycho Magic. I'm definitely going to read Psycho Magic, and I noticed it has an entire book by DeLawrence in it, legally, because that book's copyright expired. It doesn't appear to be a grimoire, as I don't see any sigils. You can spot a grimoire very easily, as there will be sigils, seals, pentagram type designs in it, designed to summon demons. Now, I will make an entire video on this book if it's interesting. If it's not interesting, I won't. But I will do an entire video on how to summon demons. Why would I do that? Why would I share such dangerous information? Because perhaps to protect people that don't know how and maybe accidentally fell into a trap of doing it subconsciously. It's a very subtle practice concerning sigils, concerning seals. In most occult books, you won't find an exact step-by-step process on how to do it. But I know that step-by-step process because I've read many books, piecing the information together, and hearing some occultists talk about it bluntly after poring over thousands of hours of lectures, videos, reading countless PDFs. I do know the step-by-step process. It's very simple. It's extremely simple. I'll talk about that in a future episode. Here's a book called Albertus Magnus, a very old edition of this book released by DeLawrence. I'm a fan of DeLawrence from the perspective of he greatly liked getting the information out there. Perhaps he greatly loved profiting off of it, but he seems to me like someone who sought knowledge and perhaps became possessed. Here is a photograph of DeLawrence, and this is not part 2 of the DeLawrence video. I'm going to read these DeLawrence books and do part 2 with some background on his life in part 2 and 3 of the series on L.W. DeLawrence. But here's an example of a book attributed to something that has nothing to do with it, perhaps. I haven't read the whole thing. I've only flipped through it. This is an early copy, I believe first or second edition, of Albertus Magnus. It says, Egyptian Secrets, White and Black, Art for Man and Beast. So there you can see right there it says Egyptian Secrets. And that's kind of like the books of Moses. What I read in this book didn't seem to relate to Egypt in any way, shape, or form. Now, maybe I have to read the whole thing to read it in the proper context, but I believe this is another case of slapping something provocative on there, like Moses, Egypt, when it has nothing to do with those things, just to sell the book. Here is one of my rarest books, I would say. I'm going to do a review on this book, the DeLorean's Book of Death, first edition, leather bound. An extremely rare book. The Book of Death by L.W. DeLawrence, leather bound. Extremely good condition. In no way, shape, or form will I flip through this book because it's too rare. It's extremely rare. But I have a facsimile copy of that book I will flip through. That is by far one of my more expensive books. I love collecting physical books. In an age where the Kindle is so easy to slap a bunch of Kindle books on there and the PDFs are free and you can download them and put them on your iPhone. And I do that with my iPhone. I've converted a couple books from PDF to the iPhone format, and I do flip through them occasionally. But there's something about a physical book, and I'm glad we're in this digital information age, because information is so free and easy to get. Everything I talk about, you can easily snag the PDF or Kindle version and read and get your own opinion on what I'm talking about. It's not exclusive, initiate-only information as it was in ancient times. But because these digital formats are so popular, it's that much easier to grab good versions of the physical editions. I've gone through thousands of dollars of buying and selling occult books. Some guy actually called me out on it. He said, "You buy books low and sell them high? Oh, that's so despicable." I felt like Corso in the Ninth Gate, all right? I'm not that guy. I don't have a check of $30,000 and I'm flying around Europe just grabbing up really expensive copies of Don Quixote and flipping them for thousands of dollars. I'm buying these dirt cheap books on Amazon for $5. I do my research for days on end to even find them, and then I'll flip it for $50. And it won't be $45 profit, because after the fees and shipping, you get $30 profit, $35, $40 at most. And it's hardly extremely lucrative in any way, shape, or form, but it's a way to get your hands on a book, check it out. If you like it, keep it, put it in your collection. If you don't like it, you can get rid of it without any worries, because you can make more than what you paid for it. But there are times when it sits on my shelf for over a year before anyone buys it. It's a very slow process. If you want to get into doing that, the guy made the comment that he was unethical. In no way, shape, or form is buying a book low and selling it high unethical. Some people. But concerning grimoires being attributed to the wrong person, there's a grimoire called the Grimoire of Raphael the Angel. In no way, shape, or form did Raphael write that book. Some jerk, probably possessed, wrote it designed to summon angels when really it's summoning demons, and then he attributes it to Raphael. Totally bogus. So beware at the attributions on these grimoires. I could go on and on. The Key of Solomon, the Lesser Key of Solomon. In my opinion, look at it historically, every historian agrees. They are not written by King Solomon. They're written by someone else that slapped Solomon's name on there, whipped up a myth, which is such an old myth. It's an ancient myth. Many religions accept it as a fact. King Solomon did not write the Key of Solomon, or the Lesser Key of Solomon, or the Greater Key of Solomon. He didn't write the Goetia. He didn't write any of that grimoire, demon summoning stuff. I heard there's a secret that the Temple of Solomon was built by demons under the command of King Solomon, with the ring given to him by God, the genie in a bottle, this and that here and there. Sorry, folks, I'm gonna have to say, King Solomon has nothing to do with that story. That story was written by the same demented, possessed minds as other people hundreds, if not thousands of years before and later, who wrote books such as the 6th and 7th Book of Moses, who wrote books such as the Grimoire of Raphael. I could go on and on. There are many other examples. Dr. John Dee summoned demons with the help of his black magic partner, Edward Kelly. Edward Kelly would talk to the demons. John Dee would write down what the demons were saying. A lot of the times they would claim to be an angel, or this or that. Sometimes they would ask them to do extremely compromising things, proving it was a demon. The greatest piece of information that Dr. John Dee got from these demons was the secret language of Enoch, Enochian. You've probably heard of the Book of Enoch, or the Enochian grimoires with Enochian language. The prophet Enoch had nothing to do with that. He didn't write it. Enochian has nothing to do with Enoch. And I'm sorry, but John Dee was fooled and deceived. That deception continues to this day. Enoch and his followers, as you read in the Old Testament, they were translated and they all went up to heaven. And there is reference in the Bible to a book of Enoch. The book was lost to time. Perhaps it was voted out, thrown away, and burned. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a copy of a manuscript of something resembling the Book of Enoch in the Vatican archives in Vatican City. I would not be surprised, but that library is top secret. Only high officials in the Vatican have access to it. Other than something like that, I seriously doubt the Book of Enoch has anything to do with Enochian language, and I seriously doubt it has anything to do with summoning demons. Someone who's ascended into heaven isn't in the business of summoning demons, alright? If you want to believe any of those stories. Book of Enoch, Books of Moses, Book of Raphael, Book of King Solomon. There's a repeating theme. They're all grimoires designed to summon demons. And they're all written by people that are not the author attributed. It was illegal and condemnable to death if you practiced black magic in certain time periods in the past. So that might have been one motivation to slap some anonymous name on there. And slapping a famous name would help the sales, although it seems to have not been designed for the sales, as secret orders would have these books, would have these codexes, grimoires of summoning demons. So they weren't handing them out in the streets. If they were, they would have been killed for doing so. The names are likely to fool the initiates into thinking this is important information. Let me do this. And these grimoires, time and time again, fool the reader into thinking that, oh, this is what God wants you to do, summon demons. I'm sorry, but in no way, shape, or form can you trick me into thinking God wants me to summon demons. God doesn't want anyone to summon demons, alright? No one wants you to summon demons more than guess who and guess what? Demons. Demons want you to summon them. No one else does. So my word of advice would be, don't believe what you read in occult books. You can still get information from them. Read between the lines, but some people are going to read the wrong lines, weed out the truth, and believe the lies. So that's a problem, but the Key of Solomon wasn't written by King Solomon. 6th and 7th Book of Moses wasn't written by Moses. Grimoire of Raphael wasn't written by Raphael the angel. The Book of Enoch was not written by Enoch. Enochian has nothing to do with Enoch. False attributions in grimoires is rampant, proof that these books are chock full of lies. That's a warning I give to anyone who doesn't have a filter or simply doesn't know the history of these famous characters. I guarantee you, these prophets and kings and angels didn't write any of these grimoires. I'm going to continue to talk about grimoires in the future. I do collect them, but I don't practice any of the ceremonies in them. I've learned a lot about sigils, about what not to do, and I will share more on the subject in the future. I thank you for watching. This has been John Razimus with Occult Unmasked. Be seeing you.